Hi, I'm Kathy Vanessa from the Golden Door, and we're here tonight to talk to Julie Shafer about a life with a purpose. A life with purpose may be defined as having intention, whether that means remaking the world or rearing healthy children as women we aim to do, and do it well. There's every reason to believe that changes in society today are driven by an overwhelming desire in most women to find a purpose. Julie Shafer is a philanthropic consultant who leverages her knowledge and lifelong passion for some of the most challenging philanthropic issues. And tonight we're talking about a life with a purpose. Several weeks ago, we interviewed Tony Buettner from Blue Zones. Has anybody ever heard of the Blue Zones? Yeah. Very interesting, oh my gosh, very interesting interview. I want him to come back. And he just talked about what happened in Sardinia, Okinawa, Loma Linda, California, Greece, that the average age of those communities were 15 years longer than the average age of the rest of the world communities. And they found that they shared specifically 9 traits that they defined. And one of the traits, one of the 9, was to have a life of purpose. So that sort of leads me into to Julie. Why does a sense of purpose have such a positive effect on mental and physical well-being?
Well, I think, as most of us probably know from being here, you came here with a purpose. Everyone needs something to look forward to. Everyone needs something to have a hook to hang your soul on, so to speak. And purpose really can be almost your background music. Everyone needs a background music. It doesn't have to be a drum beat, but something that keeps you motivated day to day, something that gets you up in the morning, something that gives you a little thrill, or maybe something that just brings you immense calm. I have found that people who find that, whatever it is, are generally much happier people
It's not
and
just
live longer.
philanthropic.
Oh, not at all.
No, it can
not
be
at all.
any purpose.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. It can be a beautiful garden.
Right.
It can be needlepoint. It can
Right.
be
Right.
whatever fits your personality and your lifestyle. Yeah.
Right. I think, and typically in America, we've divided our adult life up into 2 sections. There's our work life, and when we're very productive, and then one day, boom, there's our retirement life. And typically that's meant retiring to an easy chair or going to Arizona to maybe play golf. No offense to Arizona, of course, it's beautiful. But in this Okinawan language, their language was, what was the reason that you wake up every morning? It was something quite deep, that every morning that was their first thought. What was their purpose for the day? And as you said, it could be anything. Mm-hmm. Do you think as in our culture, clearly Loma Linda is one town, there's a different reason. We don't think like that. How do we change our thinking?
Well, I think there are people who are changing their thinking. I think that millennials in many ways are driving this change because they're making different choices in their life because they want to live a life of purpose. I think that women are much better at this than men, frankly. We have many layers of purpose in our life. We have our children, we have our significant others, we have our good friends, we have people that we nurture and take care of. I think that our culture, though, American culture, doesn't necessarily lend itself to living a life of purpose. You have to be very dedicated to that.
I think that the millennials get a bad rap. I think the millennials are like the new baby boomers disguised in a different piece of clothing, that they're going to be change agents. Why do they get such a bad rap when they are probably far more dedicated to society, protections and changes and causes than we ever were?
I agree. I see the changes that they're making in the workplace, the changes that they're making in philanthropy. These are huge, and they're going to affect our history, for decades. Yes, I think there are always people that will be critical. Yeah. Particularly, I think in the past election cycle, there were a number of millennials that sat out, and that was, a big issue. But in general, millennial women are the ones that are driving pay equity.
I see it, I agree. I have a lot of faith in the millennial
Absolutely,
society.
absolutely.
I think they're the next change. The concept of having a purpose in life, believe this or not, goes back to the Greeks and maybe even before Greek. Research has found that people who have a greater sense of purpose and direction are likely to outlive, think about this, just as simple as saying something, outlive their peers. So would you agree with that sort of broad, this is a pretty dramatic statement, that if you find a purpose, whatever the purpose is,
Absolutely.
You're right, changing a garden,
Absolutely.
making a difference, going to the community, taking a walk.
Right.
They said, would you agree that a sense of purpose can actually have you live longer?
Definitely, and a number of people that I've crossed paths with over the years professionally, I've helped them find a purpose. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was a philanthropic direction.
So that's a perfect lead in. What was one of your favorite stories of helping someone create a purposeful life?
Not long ago, I was working with a very well-known Silicon Valley executive, and she's very active in the environment, but she was really looking for something else because she wanted her time to be spent in a different way. That's something that she was a little set aside from something that she was always doing. So after a lot of conversation, we found that she's interested in preserving craft, preserving cultural crafts that exist in Asia, India, even in Europe, but that are being lost because of mass manufacturing. So we ended up spending a lot of time together in India and building a very large community center, which brought Hindu and Muslim silk weavers together, and
wow.
And trying to revive the silk weaving industry in India. So it was a fascinating project, but she has become so passionate about this, and her purpose is to create or recreate rather these crafts.
So, and it kind of goes back to that beginning statement that a purpose could be many things. Do you think that the way society is moving at such light speed, which it is, and we're so having even a harder time, which we've had many conversations about this, staying healthily connected.
Yes.
Not just internet connected and email connected, but actually touching connected.
Right.
Does that hurt having a purposeful life?
Because it's distracting. Yeah. I mean, your cell phone is not your purpose, believe it or not. You need to have something deeper. Purpose, it's an intention. It's something that you commit yourself to, which is very different than technology today and very different than our fast-moving pace.
Well, there's in fact of the matter, there's a lot of confusion about what really helps us live longer today. Should you be running marathons? Should you be doing more yoga? Should you eat organic? Should you be eating tofu? We hear all these things. Should you eat more supplements? Should you be taking them or not? Or how about hormones? There's all these reasons. And it sort of comes back to this simple solution of how do you have a purposeful life when you have all of this is trying to tell you that this is how your life will be longer, when it goes back to being that simple. Is there some way that we can account for our lives and stop for a moment, that's all of us, and say, okay, this is really what motivates me every day? Maybe it changes every day.
It changes.
It's a very difficult conversation, though.
Yes, yes. Sometimes when I'm working with people, we'll think about, what is your purpose for the next 7 minutes?
Exactly.
What's your purpose for the next 7
changes.
days, 7 weeks, 7 years? And sometimes there's a theme.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, certainly in the beginning, no.
It must be flexible.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And that sort of goes, but we lose motivation in our lives. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and go, what's the point? There's an interesting survey online that actually asks you, do you have a purposeful life? And oh my gosh, when you see the questions that they ask, it's like, oh my gosh, definitely we have a purposeful life. Waking up after having a shower, eating breakfast, going to work day after day. But with a strong purpose, we never ask that question as we're taking our shower. What's going to be my intent for the day? Which goes back to mindfulness and meditation and health. What are the steps that we can do to create that pattern? It might be changing a pattern that we already have.
Possibly. I think it starts with just being aware. There's a difference from having purpose and the things that you have to do, or even different from your goals. Many people come here and they say they want to be more fit, or I want to lose 5 pounds, or whatever the case may be. That's different than purpose. I think the first step is just becoming aware and listening and finding the things that really bring you joy. Is it reading that book? Is it having 30 minutes at the end of the day? Is it taking that walk by yourself? What are the things that really make you feel like you? And once you identify that, the rest of it sort of falls into place.
Yeah, could it even be climbing a mountain?
Absolutely.
Like that's not really being fit, it's really it might be a goal.
That's probably more of a goal.
Yeah,
but,
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Curiosity about people in particular enriches our lives. There's a lot of conversation about mindfulness, purpose, and curiosity. I find this particularly interesting. Curious people, which plays into the mindfulness side, tend to live longer. Isn't that interesting? Are we curious? I think the internet actually allows us to be incredibly curious because you can ask it anything. Curious people tend to live longer and better, interact with others and draw them out. You learn amazing things. Was I interested? But can curiosity lead to purpose? I think
Sure.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a woman that I worked with not long ago in Northern California, she came into an enormous inheritance, but she felt she had no purpose in life. And we started working together, and after, exploration, she came to realize that she wanted to affect the sale of women and girls in human trafficking. Her whole life changed, and I got a phone call from her husband about 6 months later, and he said, "Thank you, because my wife has found her purpose
I know.
in
I
life."
can totally relate. You know that in 2018, I shared with you, I'm going to share with my guest, we're going to have the first ever Child Abuse Summit at the Golden Door. I'm so excited, and we're going to invite the experts in the industry to come and sit, and it's going to all be, they're going to come and sit with us and talk about what is actually happening in the world of child abuse and trafficking. It's actually a giant conversation today. Because what's happening in society today, are we getting immune?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? Are
Right.
we immune to feeling?
Right.
Do we actually believe what
Right.
is going on?
Well, we're bombarded. We're bombarded by things every day. That's the downside of technology, right?
Right, that's the downside. And it's nice to come to a place like this because it sort of helps you stop for a moment.
And stay conscious.
Adam Kaplan, at Johns Hopkins, a PhD doctor, investigated the links, this is very interesting, between depression and autoimmune diseases. He discovered that people who find a meaning and a purpose in life was as important as a healthy diet to living a healthy life. It was equally that important. This is pretty big. And it sort of goes back to a bit, I think we sort of touched it a bit, but his question that he posed to everybody was, can you define your life with a purpose? Can each of you sit down and define your life? What is your purpose in life?
My purpose, it took me a while to figure it out. But my purpose really, I describe it as moving the ball forward. I try and constantly connect people in order to move things forward in a positive way. That's my purpose.
Yeah, you're a good connector. That's important. Typically, women are not so good at connecting, but
yeah,
it's important.
It is important.
It's very important to know how to connect
is.
some dots.
And I think that as we become more isolated because of technology, these connections are really critical to our health and well-being.
No, I agree with that. It's not exactly clear on how purpose can benefit health, even though there's a lot of documentation, a lot of conversation about it from Blue Zones and all these different people. It's still not completely clear. But one of the key things that they are proving is that having a purpose reduces stress
Yes.
dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
And having a stressful life is really how you're
Right.
hurting yourself.
Right.
Do you find that the people that you're working with have less stress in their life? Because they are dealing with the most stressful things possibly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying? Does the time when you're with them, you see them in a different light than could be in their regular lives?
Yes,
Because
and
they're-
I think for a number of reasons. I
that
think
make sense?
yes, they feel that they have a direction,
Right.
that they have something to put their mind to that's positive. And also, I oftentimes bring in next gen in the work so they feel that there's something they can bring their family into as well. And it's almost like there's a sigh of relief, right? That we found something that our family can
Your
come
family can
together
do.
around.
But that can also be stressful.
It can be,
Yeah.
but if it's planned and managed correctly, I mean, in some ways, finding a purpose for a family, I'm thinking of an occasion of a family I worked with in Connecticut recently, finding a common purpose actually helped reduce their stress
Oh my
because they were a
gosh.
very disparate family.
Oh my gosh.
And that became a great unifier.
Wow. Should doctors, knowing that now finding a purpose in life, I've never heard a doctor talk about purpose.
No.
Ever. Have anybody heard
No.
a doctor talk about purpose to lower your
No.
stress? Ever. Not once. But should doctors be helping patients that are providing a pill and doing this and doing that, say, hey, let's talk about the purpose in your life. What are you doing for yourself? Why isn't that not, why is that a missing link between healthcare?
Well,
And
that's
it's not
a
talked
much
about at
longer
all.
conversation about healthcare, but first of all, I think they don't have enough time. I mean, doctors are on this, 10, 15 minutes turnaround, and they need to get the basics done, right? But wouldn't it be lovely if they could sit down with us for a half an hour and say, so how are you spending your days? What is it that really brings you joy?
I think it would
in your
change a
life?
person's health.
It would.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we get to do here with the Old Golden Door, but how do we help our guests take that purpose home? Even if it changes every single day, that it's wonderful feeling, as you said yourself, your shoulders come down, you take a deep breath, you start to pause for a moment and look at your own intent. How do we take that home?
Well, something that you do here, I think that's really important in this is the journaling. I think if you're being conscious and thinking about what you're feeling, what brings you joy, that's a great place to start. I mean, that's something that we can all do at home very easily.
That's a very good idea. Do you see, I want to go back to the millennial one, I just have a few more quick millennials. Do you see, if you looked at a curve on purpose, that as the millennials step into the limelight, and in today's society, is purposeful growing or shrinking?
It's definitely growing.
It's definitely growing.
In a huge way.
Because of millennials?
Because of millennials.
Because of the young, idealistic.
The energy,
Right.
the vision, their own experience, the way that they have come out of college and entered the workplace.
So is their approach different?
Very much so, both in the workplace and in
very
philanthropy.
much,
The workplace is changing. It's becoming much more communicative and much more casual, which is a good thing. And philanthropy is seriously changing, and the financial world is seriously changing because of that. So purpose is built into all of those approaches with millennials.
We find that if companies don't have purpose, they will not be as highly regarded as companies with a purpose. Do you think
right.
that's true?
I think that's true as long as they don't greenwash.
Exactly. I agree. It shouldn't be a marketing angle.
That's right.
We're very, very
and
much about that.
That's
No,
what we see.
100%.
I see that quite
I
often
agree.
because when I'm
agree.
working with people to align their philanthropic values with their investments, we are looking at companies that truly are walking the walk.
Right. Yeah, I think that's important. That's
Yeah.
why we keep it quiet. Is it ever too late?
No.
Oh
my gosh.
If you've held a really great life, but you really want to sort of change your life and make it deeper and live longer, is it too late to find purpose?
No.
You can do it at any time.
Just like it's never too late
never
to
too
find
late.
love, right?
That's true. That's very true.
See, I'm thinking positive.
It's never too late to find love, right, ladies? No, it's never. No, I saw some no's over there right now. It's never too late to find love. If you could think of one, every time we talk to one of our guests, and we're going to do some questions and answers afterwards, we always ask this one question at the very end that's very important, and that is, if you could give a golden nugget for my wonderful guest who sat with us tonight, what would that golden nugget be?
Allison told me this earlier tonight.
She gave you a hint?
The T-shirt. You don't know how strong you are until strong is the only choice you have.
That is a beautiful golden
I
nugget.
think that is.
We should all take that home.